Let's get right to those new developments in the controversy over Hillary Clinton's emails. ABC's Jonathan Karl has learned that House Speaker John Boehner is poised to announce a new investigation. He joins us now with the details. Good morning, John.
George, Hillary Clinton may have hoped that she has put the email controversy behind her with that press conference, but the investigations are now about to begin.
Top House Republicans tell ABC News they expect Speaker John Boehner to announce a new House investigation next week into Hillary Clinton's email practices as Secretary of State, including her admitted destruction of some 30,000 emails that she determined to be purely personal. As for how Mrs. Clinton has handled the controversy so far, it seemed like a case study in how not to do damage control.
She did not want to have two phones. She couldn't be like, hey man, could you hold this other phone for me?
9 days of silence, and then the reason she finally gave for not using government email at all? It would have been inconvenient.
I thought using one device would be simpler, and obviously it hasn't worked out that way.
Under State Department rules while she was secretary, if an employee used a private email account for official business, the email was to be turned over and entered into government computers. She didn't turn over any emails until 22 months after she left office.
Why did you not go along with State Department rules until nearly 2 years after you left office?
The laws and regulations in effect when I was Secretary of State allowed me to use my email for work.
Why did you wait to turn those emails over? I mean, the rules say you have to turn them over.
Secretary Clinton. I'd be happy to have somebody talk to you about the rules. I fully complied with every rule that I was governed by.
Seeing Mrs. Clinton on the defensive may be giving some Democrats second thoughts. As one former Obama aide told Politico, you never feel like you're quite getting the full story. But will it matter to voters? In the polls since the controversy began, only 17% said they are following the story closely, and she still has one of the highest approval ratings among all likely candidates, 50%.
It's a hiccup. I have no concerns about what she did.
And the email mess has gotten more complicated. The State Department is now acknowledging that it was not routinely preserving any emails, not even those sent to and from official State Department email accounts. So, George, while Hillary Clinton said that the emails that she was sending to employees on their State Department email accounts were being preserved, it now turns out that that was often not the case.
And lots more questions coming from Congress. Okay, John, thanks very much. Let's dig into this now with James Carville, longtime Clinton ally, and Navarro, confidant of Jeb Bush, Republican strategist, Greta Van Susteren from Fox News, and the editor of The New Yorker, David Remnick. Welcome to all you, James. Let me begin with you. I heard you laughing during that thought the Democrats are having second thoughts. But what is the Clinton camp taking away from this?
Well, first of all, we're going to start with a former Obama aide had concerns. Okay, let's get serious here. What this is the latest in a continuation. And if you take it all and you put it together and you subtract 3.1415 from pi, you're left with not very much. And that's what, at the end of the day, so Republicans can't pass a budget. All right, we got another investigation, just like we had the Whitewater, just like you go through the Filegate, you go through Travelgate, you go through 7 or 8 different congressional committees. And you wonder why the public is not following this? Because they know what it is. It was something that she did. It was legal. I suspect she didn't want Louis Gohmert rifling through her emails, which seems to me to be a kind of reasonable position for someone to take. So it amounts to, just like everything else before it, it amounts to nothing but a bunch of people flapping their jaws about nothing.
Nothing?
Now, well, I don't know if it's nothing. I don't know if it's illegal. We need a lot more facts, but it certainly violated the spirit of the law. She should have done it. What I can't get over is, like, how stupid. I mean, she must have known that everyone would be looking at everything she did. And what in the world was she thinking? That's what I don't get over, is that, you know, she should have known better from the get-go. And frankly, last August, when Trey Gowdy, chairman of the committee, wanted to first got wind of the fact that these emails existed, why didn't someone run over and negotiate a deal with her? Instead, this blows up all over.
Maybe she was thinking in Navarro that those investigations were going to come no matter what.
She's always thinking that there's investigations that are going to come no matter what. That's why she's got this level of paranoia and this need for control and this secrecy, and that's why she set this up. This wasn't for convenience. But listen, let me tell you, I want to thank James for reminding us of all of the other scandals, because what part of the problem with this is that it brings back the narrative that with the Clintons come blurred lines, like the song says, and there comes drama and scandal. It's just one more strike on the zebra.
It's made up. You take pi, you subtract 3.1415, and you don't end up with very much.
Yeah. I don't even understand what James just said, but here's the thing.
I think that was the reason.
I wish this were more convincing. I wish this were more convincing.
You weren't convinced by the press conference either.
Not at all. I thought that performance was... Look, it's one thing for a politician to be stupid, which Hillary Clinton is not. It's quite another for a politician to believe that we're stupid. And that is deflating. Look, a lot of people that I know, and myself included, are not likely to vote for a conservative Republican come 20 months from now. A lot of our readers are in that camp. And they want Hillary Clinton to be the best Hillary Clinton that she can be in the absence of any competition in the Democratic Party, which I also think is a bad thing.
Wait, because that's going to make it difficult for her to get into fighting shape.
Well, look at the Obama-Clinton race, in 2008. That made both candidates a hell of a lot better, clearly. So in the absence of competition, to have to see a deflating spectacle like we saw at that press conference, just one second, it just brings back a lot of bad memories and bad instincts on the part of the Clintons. James is absolutely right that there were a lot of false scandals, but there was also a lot of stuff that when
But
we
there's no issue. I don't
is-
think it's going to change one vote. People who hated her from the beginning hated her. Those who loved her from the beginning love her. It's in people in the middle that probably haven't even heard much about it. And a year from now, it's probably going to be a lot of noise. I think the fatal thing, she gave ammunition.
I don't think people want to vote with a sense of resignation.
Well, I think
they want to
that's
vote
the
with a sense
danger.
of enthusiasm.
But I want to let me go back to my original question to you, James. I mean, taking your points about there's been a lot of these scandals in the past that have sort of evaporated over time. But the Clinton camp did demonstrate, I think, in the last 10 days that they weren't up to speed. It took them an awful long time to figure out what the story was and to respond.
This is not just spin. I actually believe this. All right? In some ways, this is good because it reminds everybody of what it is. And so this happened, and it's never going to stop. All right? Because it's what I call the Clinton rule. It's a rule that applies to the Clintons, and then there's a press rule that applies to everybody else. If
And we agree. They think they're above the rules.
No.
But that's the problem with the emails, James.
Again. So this is what it is. There are people out there like me that don't accept that.
But
we don't
James-
accept the
but
standard
James-
that some rule applies to the Clintons and other rules applies to everybody else.
James, you just stepped in it. You just stepped in it. Yeah, I'll tell you why you stepped in it, because that's the whole idea that the rule on the emails applies to them and not to
Colin
everybody
Powell
else.
does the same thing. Jeb Bush does the same thing. And you say, well, it's Colin Powell. No, what she did was completely legal, just as what Jeb Bush did and Colin Powell did was completely legal. We do not accept it.
Let me address this Jeb Bush thing, because it's been the talking point du jour for all the Democrats. Let me tell you this. I'm a little bit familiar. Okay, well, let me just say this. May I please respond?
Yeah.
I'm a little familiar with this email because I have been emailing that email since before Jeb Bush was governor. So Jeb Bush had that email before he was governor. Hillary set hers up the week she was in confirmation. Jeb Bush has been one of the most transparent, if not the most transparent
Wait a second.
governor.
It is just a fact that he's turned
email.
over only a fraction of his emails. That's just a fact. That's a
There's
fact.
300,000 emails out there. How many are out there of Hillary's emails to be read? And he has self-reported. Let's remember that these emails that Hillary is at some point going to turn over for the public have been coming out under duress because of investigations.
Listen
Jeb
to this.
Bush. And you know what? Let's talk about the fact of how they've handled it politically. Forget the merits. Let's now argue for a minute. Let's just entertain that it's apples and apples. Jeb Bush got ahead of the story. James, it took God 6 days to create the earth. It took Hillary Clinton 8 days to address the media.
We got all our talking points, and we're going to filibuster. The simple truth about it is Jeb Bush has released 10% of his emails. He had a private email server. Colin Powell had a private email server. He destroyed his emails. But when I say the Clinton standard, I mean this. The press applies. And by the way, this story came from the Benghazi Republicans on the thing. And if you remember, the New York Times printed a story about weapons of mass destruction that came from Dick Cheney's office, who again went out and touted that as a reason to go war. The Whitewater story comes from a bunch of old washed-up segs in Arkansas.
I take every single point you make, and we do have to take a quick break. But the fact is still, the Clintons are still dealing with it in the same way, and that's actually what's dispiriting.
And I think
potential supporters.
this kind of back and forth, with due respect, if that's going to be the nature of our campaign in the next 20 months, with issues like violence against women all around the world, the disparities in income, and the insecurity and instability of the Middle East and Europe at stake, people's livelihoods at stake. If this is going to be what's at issue in the next 20 months, we're in very sad shape.
And actually, we have to get to one of those other issues. You guys are going to come back a little bit to the Republican side.